and then we'll move to the code, and then we'll start coding and making different types of apps. Vishnu, over to you.
Yes, everyone's going to just sharing my screen. I'm going to turn off camera because I don't have that much data. So is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. So what is Flutter? So Flutter is basically an open source UI software development kit created by Google. And I've just had funny memes to help you guys out understand as much as possible. It is used to develop cross-platform applications for Android, iOS, Linux, Mac OS, Windows, Google, uh, Fuchsia, and the web from a single code base. In short, all you have to do is code once in order to deploy in all operating systems. What is Dart? Dart is the programming language you use in order to do in the Flutter framework. So Dart is an object-oriented, class-based, garbage-collected language with C-style syntax. It's relatively easier compared. It's very similar to C syntax and C++ syntax. So if you're familiar with at least one of the programming languages, Dart will be a piece of cake. Now, what's the difference between Flutter and Dart? As I've mentioned before, Flutter is an open source framework. There's a difference between framework and a programming language. So it is an open source framework developed by Google for building beautiful, natively compiled multi-platform applications from a single code base. As I said before, in short, it's a Flutter. Flutter is a framework that uses Dart as its programming language. And that's it. And over to Keshav. And we will be not deploying, we will be explaining how to code two apps. One is dice app where I think it's self-explanatory, where you just need to roll dice, but it's in the form of an app. And if time permits, we'll try creating three apps. So over to you, Keshav. Thank you.
So I hope you all have installed the Flutter SDK from the following process as it was there on the, what do you say, mail. But still, I'll go through the process once again.
And I'd encourage all of the participants to code along the app so that we're all on the same boat.
असाइनमेंट्स पड़े हैं वो ऊपर देख मैं तो कर लूंगा
So is my screen visible? So basically, this is the official Flutter docs. This is the official Flutter docs from where you can get all the information regarding Flutter, whether it's about coding or how to install the process and everything. So it's very well maintained. First, you have to download the SDK. You have these minus system requirements. You need to get the SDK, and you need to add this to your path. You need to update your path variable so that you can access Flutter from any part of the system. And then you need to install Android Studio just to set up with all the Java and other files which are required to work along with Flutter. And then if you want, you can use a different IDE, like VS Code or something else to code in Flutter. So I think I'll start with the coding part right now. So I've created a directory, and in this I'll create a Flutter project. So it's a very simple command. It's Flutter create and the name of the app you want to create. So we are creating a dice app, so I'll name it dice underscore app. It will create a Flutter project, a basic Flutter project, and take care of all the files which are required to run an app. So as you can see, like the app is almost created. So now we'll switch to the app directory. So this is our Flutter file, which will Flutter project, which will open up. So as you can see, there are multiple files: Android, iOS, web, and Windows. So after Flutter 2.7, we have Windows support too. Like you can code one app with all the basic, like you can code once and use it in all the platforms. So Android has all the dependencies it requires to run on Android system. iOS have all the dependencies it requires to run on iOS system. And similarly, web and Windows. This is the main file we'll be working along, and we'll be like doing the most of the coding. So first I'll switch to this file and I'll show you, I'll run this for you. So while it's running, I can like go through the code. So this is a test file where you can test all your widgets if you want to. Like if there's a new widget you want to try and not push it directly into the main code, then you can try it here. And in the main.dart file, the Dart is the basically language in which we code in Flutter, so that and in this Dart file there's this import line. It basically imports all the packages which are required to code in Flutter. So the Flutter basically has three types of apps: material app, Cupertino app, and a desktop app. So a material app is a design which is used for Android systems. It's like a skeleton of the Android system, under which the design scheme followed by Android is material app design, and the same which is followed by iOS is Cupertino app design, and the desktop is something else. One second. As you can see, the app has run, and I've run the same code in my web browser. While it loads, we can get more about it. So this is the main function from where the app starts, as you all know, and this is a run app function. It's a part of the Flutter which helps the main function to recognize that it has to run the app. Now, run app accepts a widget. What is a widget? Widget is basically everything you see on your Flutter screen or like on your app screen is a widget. Everything in Flutter you code, like whether it is a text or whether it's a animation or a button or an app bar, anything you see is a widget. And in Flutter, the good part is everything works as a widget. So you can create a tree of widgets and create a really complicated app with very simple code. So this is the basic default Flutter app, which builds up when we create an app. So what is the function of this app? It's basically an increment counter and nothing more than that. So I'll show you how I can change the color of the theme just with one line. So if I change this to green, the whole theme of the app has changed to green. It's so simple. Now, as you can see, the My App is a stateless widget. Now, there are two types of major widgets in Flutter. One is stateless and one is stateful. We'll get into it deeper after a little while. But stateless widgets are basically used when we don't have any data, or like we don't have anything to update when we interact with the app. And stateful widget is used when we have to update the data on the screen when we interact with the app. So as you can see, most of this part, like Flutter demo homepage and this button and this, you have pushed this button this many times. This is all constant part of the app. Nothing is changing here. So it is a part of a stateless widget. But this counter is, and when we press the button, this counter is changing. So this is a part of the stateful widget. And there are other widgets such as column and everything. We'll get to it. So first, what I'll do is I'll remove all of this code and we'll start with start. So first, we'll import all the libraries we need. We need a material app. So this helps me use the material widget which I want to use. And after that, I'll start a void main function. Run app. And I'll name my app, suppose, a dice. And since it is not able to recognize dice app because we haven't really created a widget named dice app, so we'll create a widget, a stateless widget named dice app, which basically returns a container. So when we see the code now, we'll see just a blank screen. As you can see, it's just a blank screen. But if I change this color of this container to colors.green, suppose it, I hope you can see a green screen. Yeah. So, but we don't have to create this. First, I'll show you what is our final target. Wait. This is something we have to achieve. Like whenever you tap on a dice or something, the numbers change automatically and you get a new dice roll, new combination. So I'll just remove this part too. And since we are creating an app, we need a material app. It gives us more access such as navigation of screen and everything. If we don't use a material app, we won't be able to navigate across screens. Now, a material app has various properties such as home, initial root, on generate root, title, color, theme, and everything. So whenever you don't understand what is going on, you can like just hover over the, like if you forget some of the syntax, like what you are planning to, like you know what you want to do, but you don't know how to do it. You don't know the syntax, then you can check all the properties of that particular widget by just hovering over it. Or you can always refer the docs. So as you can see, it needs a home widget to display the main body of the widget. So I'll just return a home and a scaffold. Now what is scaffold? Scaffold is something which makes the material app more beautiful. Suppose if we remove this line and if you see the code, it will be just a black screen and nothing else. Scaffold gives us more properties such as app bar and everything. Now, for people who don't know what is an app bar, this thing over here is an app bar. We can change the color of the app bar, add title to the app bar, and do a lot of things. Suppose, let's say, I want to change the color of this app bar to gray. What I can do is, I'll go into the app bar, and I'll hover over it. I'll see all the properties. I can see there's a property as background color of the app bar. So I'll write background color, and I'll set it to colors. Colors basically helps us to get all the default colors which are available in the Flutter app, in the material app design. But sometimes we might need some other colors too. So I'll show you how to do that too. The color of the thing changes. Now you might notice this weird debug banner over there. You can even remove that with just a line of code. So it's debug show check mode banner. And if I set this property to false, this banner will disappear. That's it. Now, we were talking about changing of colors, right? So there are some times when we need a different color which is not available over there. So what we can do is we can just go to here. Okay. Suppose we need to pick up a color. A color hunt is a website where you can get various good colors, really good combinations of all the palettes and everything. So I want to copy this color. So I'll just click on it. I'll just copy it. I'll go to my code and I'll call the color method, color, and it accepts the hex code which you have copied. And before the hex code, we have to put 0xFF. So it basically tells that it basically tells the Flutter basically requires an 8-digit hex code, but the one we got there was a 6-digit code. So 0xFF basically tells the Flutter like this is a solid color. If you have any idea about what color combinations you can get from a single color, then 0xFF tells about the opacity of the color and the gradient and everything. So as you can see, the color of the app bar has changed. We can even change the elevation of the app bar and even add a title to it. So title, let's say there are two ways you can add a title. So it accepts a widget. Now what is a widget? I told you everything in Flutter is a widget. Now it can be a text widget. Text widget helps you put text on the screen. And since we are replicating a dice app, we'll write dice. Let's see what happens. I think that's the problem. You can even style the text if you want to. Style is another property in the text widget, which accepts a text style type of widget, where you can set the color of the text widget if you want to, like colors.black. You can even change the font size, suppose 20. You can even change the font weight. It's like font, like you want it to be bold or semi-bold or anything. I'll go with the semi-bold one, which is W600, as you can see. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so we saw that the background color is changed and we have a dice over it. But it's not centered. We want it to be centered. So we can wrap this widget. We can add another widget over it and wrap it with center. The center is a widget which has a child. Every widget has its own child. So assume it like you have a big widget, a big tiffin. Suppose you have a tiffin, and a tiffin can accommodate various types of food inside it. And every food has its own flavor and different spices and everything. So whatever goes inside the tiffin are the child of the tiffin widget. And whatever goes inside the food is a child of that food itself. So this is how it's working. Center basically aligns the text to the center of the space available to it. Now in the app bar, we have this much area. And center basically aligns it to this area. And in center, we have a text widget, which has the text dice and the following style. Now we'll move to the body of the app. We are done with this part. Now I'll move to this part. Let's say I'll add a container. So container is like the most basic widget which you'll be using a lot of times. It's like the name is significant enough to tell you what a container is. It basically contains any widget you have inside it. And suppose if I change the color to colors.red accent. So we'll get a different color. Now, there's a tricky part about container. If a container doesn't have a child, it will take all the space available to it. But if it has a child, then it will take the space only the child requires. Suppose if I add a child to it, which is a text widget, which is I am the body. See how it works out. So see, as you can see, it only took the size the text widget required. Now, if I increase the size of the text widget to suppose font size 25, it will take more area. So that's the tricky part about working with containers. You need to give it some size if you have a widget. Now we don't care about if there's a text widget or not because we want to achieve this. Sorry. We want to achieve this. So first we'll change the color back to gray if you want to, or we can keep that red also. Now these are two images which will change, right? We'll first add images to this file. For adding images, you can refer to this. I'll share the link for.
In the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
I've shared the link of the drive where you can download all the dice images which you'll be needing. So getting back to the code.
Okay.
So I've already downloaded all those images. This is my folder. I'll drag it to my VS Code and I'll just paste it around it. Once again. There's some problem.
ये सब प्लान करते हैं
We'll create a folder named images and select add all the images.
देखो मारना जाओ
So these are all the images which we'll be needing. Let's control. I'll just drag and drop it. Yeah. So we have all the images we'll require display because in this app, this is an image which is changing when I'm tapping on the screen. There's nothing more than that. So for that part, and to use these images, we'll have to add them in our pubspec.yaml file. So this is basically the file which you will need, which you will use a lot, and you'll have to be very careful with it because just like Python, this has indentations to check whether file is a part of its directory or not. Dev dependencies has flutter.test and flutter.test has SDK Flutter. Now, if I what do you say? If I mess up the tabulation and everything, it is separated by a tab. So suppose I'm under assets folder now. Now this signifies that this has a folder under assets. And under assets, I have to add images. So I'll add images folder under my assets. This adds all the images which are present here into my Flutter file, and it actually tells my compiler that these are all the images which you have to fetch when you'll be coding. Now, let's come to the body. You'll face one more error like this. So I'll show you the error once. So suppose instead of having an text widget, I'll just give a height and width to the container first, because we saw that it takes the size of the widget. Just give it a size. You don't have it all over there. Oops. I think that stopped running.
Conjure. Conjure.
I'll run it once again. So when we add anything to that asset folder, we need to restart our app because there are two things which happen. One is hot reload and one is hot restart. Flutter has two types of things. Hot reload is something whenever we do a change, right? So the Flutter can start Flutter just implements those changes in the code and shows you the output. And the hot restart, the whole application started from the void main. Here, from here, the whole application is started again. Now, there's one problem. When we add the assets to the pubspec.yaml, the compiler doesn't really know that those assets are present there. So for that, we need to rebuild the app from scratch so it can add all the dependencies which are required. That's why we need to like build the app again whenever we add an asset to it. So as you can see, this container is always there. So if I wrap this widget, you can just click here, click on the bulb icon and wrap with center. So it's a feature of the IDE which you can work along with. It helps a lot. And you can see that the widget is now centered. Now to the child of the widget, I can add that image. Now how to add an image? Image can be added using two classes, which is asset image dot asset. So it basically tells that I have an asset image, and an asset image is an image which is present inside my app. Like I have physically uploaded all those files inside a folder. And there's another network image also. A network image is a type of image which you can fetch from the internet. Yeah, like you have to provide the URL for the image, and Flutter will do the rest of the work for fetching it from the internet and showing it to your app. Now, you don't know what kind of positional arguments it accepts. So what I can do is I can hover over it, and I can see it accepts a string for the name of the file. So I can provide the name of the file as images dash dice1 .png. So let's see how it works out. So basically, there's a dice. The image is transparent. I'll do one thing. I'll change it to black.
cannot speak to you about it.
You can even set the size of the image if you want to, and the container size are different. So now we'll have a large container with a small image in it.
Okay.
Digit. So as you can see, we have image over here. Now we need to recognize the interaction. So we'll need a button or something. We can do that, I guess. So we'll just remove all of this code again. And we'll start from scratch. We'll add a text button. A text button is a button which text button is like a normal button which accepts an on-press parameter. An on-press parameter is what it helps the button to do the work after the button is pressed. And we'll have a text widget here. Suppose we have I am pressed. And in the on-press parameter, what we can do is we can print something in our console. To demonstrate what really happens. So whenever I press this button, you can see there's an I am pressed command, a print statement coming up in my console. So we will now replace this with an image, the asset image you want. We have a really large image over here. Let me see if I can make it more visible. Yeah. As you can see now, the image is visible, and I can press it, and it can like see my interaction and tap, and it returns I am pressed in my console. So this is working. So for two dice, I can basically place these images, like two images in one row. Like now there are two more widgets in Flutter, which is column and row. A column helps you align the widgets in the form of column, and a row helps you align the form of row. So I'll demonstrate both of them to you. So a column is a widget which accepts a children, because you'll not put just one widget inside a column, you'll put multiple widgets inside a column. So I just copy this code. Now you can see that there's an overflow error. Like this code, like there are, like my system wants to show it, but it's not able to show it because it is overflowing the size of the screen I have aligned. The size of the screen it has visible, like it has access to. So for that, we have two things. Either we can reduce the size of the image. See, now we have two widgets, but then comes the problem, right? Then there's a first we'll get into that. Now we can see that these two images are in the form of a column, like they're like stacked over each other. But we want to achieve, which is something similar to in where the widgets are placed side by side. What we can do is we can, instead of putting the widgets in a column, we can put them in a row. If you put them in a row, and what will happen is these two widgets will align. Now, again, these aren't centered. So we can wrap our row with a centered widget. to help us center the widgets in the center of the screen. Now, what is happening is the row takes the whole area. Like this whole area is been taken up by row. If I extend it, and the center widget has basically aligned the row widget in the center of the screen. It has available like here and here. The distance between them is equal, but we have to align the widgets in the row too. So for that, a row has various other properties such as main axis alignment. Main axis alignment aligns the widget in this alignment, and cross axis alignment aligns the widget in this alignment. And it accepts main axis alignment type of enum property as center. Then it will align the property. It will align all its widgets to center. There are other properties of alignments too. Suppose there is a space between. This will basically spread the widgets to the both ends and will have a space in between them. And similarly, we can have space evenly. It basically spaces them evenly all around the globe. And we can have space around, where all the widgets will be having some space around it. There are only two widgets, so we cannot show, wait, I'll add one more widget. It will move here. Now there's this start and end. So it basically aligns all the widgets to the start of the. If I extend this, you'll see all the widgets are aligned to the start of that, what do you say, of the screen, of the row. And if I make it to the end, all the widgets will align to the right side of the screen. So it's quite magical that you can do all of this with just changing a keyword. Now for our purpose, we'll keep it centered and we'll remove this one. Now we can recognize the touch, but the images aren't changing. What's the reason behind? Because see, as you can see, we have only one asset here. So what we can do is we can extract this button. As you can see, I'm using the same code and I'm copy pasting it twice, but for twice it's fine. But when we have a lot of code, we can get stuck in copy pasting and all. So what I can do is I can extract this widget as a custom image, as a custom widget, and name it as die. So now, instead of using that whole text widget, I can use this single dice. And now I'll have another dice over there. That's the power of refactoring your code or extracting your widgets. Now, what can be the logic behind how can we really change the numbers if you want to? So for changing the numbers, we can do one thing. We need to update, or we have 6 images right here. So we need to change the images whenever a person taps the screen. We can recognize a tap, but we don't know how to change the image. We don't know how to generate some random numbers and change the image. So first I'll import another package, another library, which is math. So this will give me access to a random function. Random is a library which helps us to generate any random integer from a given index to another index. So I'll come here and convert this stateless widget to a stateful widget. As I told you earlier, that when we have to update the details on the screen whenever we tap or something, we'll be requiring a stateful widget. Now I'll show you why we'll be requiring a stateful widget. First, we'll have 2 numbers, int left dice number, and we'll set it to suppose 2, and then we'll have another int write dice number, and we'll set to suppose 3. Okay. Now, what's happening is the single dice, the computer won't know that like we are just giving a fixed dice number, which is dice1.png or dice2.png. But as you can see, we have the only thing which is changing in our naming is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we can take an advantage of that, and we can use something known as string interpolation. So what is string interpolation? String interpolation is something which helps you, what do you say, put a number or like put a variable inside a string, and I'll show it to you. It's actually better to show you. So I can add another thing after this, a dollar symbol, and whatever I printed after that will be like a different part of the string. It will not be a part of the static string, but it will be a variable string. Suppose if I press left dice number, but as you can see, I have an error here. Why do I have an error? The left dice number has a scope of only dice widget, like it is only accessible to this part. But I have already extracted the single dice widget. So what I need to do is I need to pass this dice number to this widget so that it can be used. So what I can do is I can just add a final variable, final int dice number. So final, we need to declare the variable as final because once we need to declare the variables as final, because it helps us. If we don't declare the variables as final, then it might happen that it might change during the execution of the program, and we might face some various issues. Now I've used dice number as the name of the widget or the name of the variable, so I'll replace it with dice number. And I've created a final variable, and every final variable must be accepted by the constructor. Now, I hope you all know about what is a constructor. If you don't know, then it's a part of the OOPS where every class is like a template for a data, and this data has a constructor. Like a constructor is like an int. You can consider it as an int where you assign a variable. So you need to construct that template, and for constructing this template, for constructing this image template, the text button template, I'll be needing this dice number, and for that dice number, I'll have to accept it as a dice number. Now you might ask that why have I used this keyword? So this keyword basically helps the this keyword basically signifies that I have to accept the dice number of this widget. For this widget, I have to accept this dice number. Whenever you like change this dice number, it will change this dice number, not some another dice number. And now these have a parameter such as dice number. And like another, like we already did parameters here, we had style, color, font size, and font weight. Similarly, in dice number, we can have left dice number, and we can have a right dice number. Let's see what happens. Now we'll see that we have 2 and 3, but still again, it's not changing. So now we can get into a little further of things. Now there's a function called setState, which is only available in Stateful widget. It's a method. So what does setState do? set state basically updates all the widgets inside this build method. As you can see, this is an override method. Here we are overriding the build method of a basic widget, of a stateful widget, and we are returning our own method. That's why we have used the keyword override. And whenever we use set state, it basically rebuilds everything inside this whole widget. Like if I use set state here, a set state, suppose, sorry, suppose we call set state. Suppose we call set state function here. So this function will basically update the states of all the variables which are there. And how will it do it? What we can do is we can create a function. Void underscore change number. So this will change this will change both the left dice number and the right dice number whenever this function is called. And inside this, I can have a set state function, because set state, after the variable is changed, set state basically notifies the stateful widget that this variable has changed, and you need to update all the widgets which are using this variable. So inside the set state, I can change the dice number of the left dice to some random integer. Now, how you get the random integer? To get the random integer, I can use random dot next int, and maximum we have 6 numbers plus 1. So next int basically returns all the number from 0 to a number less than this. So if I get 0, then I might get an error. So for that, we have added +1 so that our numbers don't get messed up and we can get the right output. So here we are basically updating left dice number, right dice number whenever we are calling this change number function. So we can do one thing. I can show you how this change number function works. So whenever this build method is being called, I can call the change number function, and I can print those values.
It's somewhere now. I am a pro. I am pro.
So there are two types of print statement we have in Flutter. One is a default print statement, which is a print, and it can take any type of data. It can be an integer, it can be a string or anything. But the drawback of using that print is, even when you're not testing your app, when your app is basically running on a release version and everything, your code will be printing the data, and that is basically garbage data which you don't need actually. So instead of using that, we prefer using debug print. Now debug print will only print data whenever the app is in debug mode. We are creating the app right now, so our app is in debug mode, and that accepts a data type of only string. So what we are doing is we are taking a right dice number and we are converting it to a string using a .toString function, and then debug print will print the data. As you can see, I started with 2 and 3, and here I have 3 and 5. Similarly, if I restart the app again, so we have 2 3s. So that's how it's going to work. Now, whenever I tap that function, right? So I'm changing my onPress parameter is what will notify if I have tapped that button or not. So I'll just call that function, which is change number. Now, again, the sad part is my code doesn't know what is change number. So I'll again need to assign a new function like this, final, the type of the variable I'm having. Change number. Required this dot change number. Now, why is this a required parameter? Now, why is this a required parameter? Because if I don't pass this parameter, required basically helps. Required throws you an error. If I don't put the required parameter, then it might happen that I might miss some important attributes which has to be passed, and I might not get the correct result which I want to. So I can just pass a change number function here, change number. We have an error here. Let's see what's error. Expression or type also its value cannot be used.
क्या और मेरे पास नहीं है अच्छा ऑफ रिक्वेस्ट हाँ ओपन है
Sorry guys for the there's been a technical issue in Keshav's laptop. His laptop got stuck, so he'll be joining right back in 2 minutes. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, so hi guys. Keshav is facing a technical issue right now. His mobile data has been completely depleted, so I'll be taking over from here. So let's, without further ado, let's finish off with another app. Um, First of all, before that, does anyone watch anime over here? Hope everyone's not sleeping. Oh, nice. Oh, we have
Yeah, I want anime.
oh, nice. We have responses. Neil Alok. Do you guys watch Naruto?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Okay, cool. So hopefully that makes it even more interesting for you guys, because this next app is going to be about Naruto. Just give me 1 second. Let me share my screen real quick. So can someone confirm if my screen is visible?
it is visible, bro.
Oh, thank you. So let me just run this. I've already built this app, so it's like, I just want to show you the target app. It's always a good idea to know what you're doing before you start, be it in a paper, be it in a paper or Figma, or just to know the UI of the app, so that you know where you're headed while coding. Okay, so this is a Naruto museum, and as you can see over here, it's just a app to display all my favorite. This is the Akatsuki, if it's a logo, and these are just a bunch of wallpapers. So I'm just going to be creating this app. Let me close this, and I'll start from scratch. Oops. So this is the normal template. Let me just get rid of all of these. So I'm going to be using a stateless widget over here as well, just like the previous app in Keshav's project. So let me just, this test folder is completely useless, so you can go ahead and delete it. It only causes problems. I don't know why. I'm just going to run this over a material app over here itself. And I'm going to create a stateless widget. You don't have to type the whole thing. If you just press the short form and press tab, it'll automatically create a stateless. Let me name this as home page. And this will return a scaffold app, just like Keshav said, it's a class which helps you create beautiful UI development. So let me create an app bar real quick. Add some background color maybe. Keep it light green, light green. let the title be text widget which says let me style it using the style function. We make this black as well. We have errors. Give me 1 second. My internet. We don't have a file. So let me just run this app. I'll run in Chrome itself. This takes a lot of time. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Let's just put it at the center. Let's wrap it in the center. Press Control S. It should hot reload. So yeah, here we go. Right, moving on. Let's add a body to it. I'm just going to put this in a container. Let me add red. Let me add another text widget. add some style. Um, this should always be in float value, this font size. So do keep that in mind. Let's run this. So let me just align this to the center. This is how, if you want to know more about a particular class, you can just hover over and press control. You can see all of its features and classes. So you don't have to memorize anything beforehand in order to do classes. So let me just align it to the center. And I'll add another child. I'll wrap this inside a text container inside. The Amber. There you go. So this is what I was looking for. This is the app bar, and I want the background to be red. You can do it however you want. So let me just go ahead and add the drawer over here. See, the drawer is now the tricky part in this. So what we need to know is about drawer. We know is about uh, Google. So the drawer class needs something called list style. You can see there are so many list styles, for example, in this one. So I'm just going to create a drawer real quick. Again, it's a stateless widget again. I'm just going to create it as my drawer. And my drawer is a part of scaffold class as well. Now under this under this class, I'm just going to create another function which takes in I'm just going to create a function which returns list style, which is the list view folder. I'm just going to name it as build style. And it should return list style. Let's add a title to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass few arguments. I want to have around let's say 7 pages, let's say 5 pages of the app of, of different characters. So can anyone name a few Naruto characters?
Shirama Sanjay.
Sorry?
Itachi.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I'm just gonna pass values which says file name. I'm gonna create this time name later. That's why it's showing error because I haven't created yet, which I will in a few in a moment. let's say this should always be in float. Add color. Create white. There's an error. Okay. So this shows an error because I haven't really declared a tile name. Okay. So now the thing about this list tile is that it needs an on-pressed command. And so an on-pressed command, as Keshav mentioned in the previous app, is that you always, when you press a button, it should have an on-pressed statement, because there's literally no point if you touch it, if you press a button, there's literally no point if it doesn't do anything, right? So I'm just going to create an on-pressed function. So in this, now the syntax of the drawer class is you need to pop the navigator first in order to close the drawer. So So what this context does is basically it throws the widget outside various trees. For example, yes, it provides the link to the location of the widget in the structure of trees. So it's pretty self-explanatory. And you don't. It's just an argument which is required because you don't have to deep dive into that much. Now I'm going to push pages into this. Push. This also need context, and there's another class under on tab called page material page root. Hover over this, you can see material. It needs material page root class. That is mandatory. And what this needs is, as you can see, this needs a builder class over here, a widget build context, and a context class which needs to be put into it. So basically, it needs builder. I'm going to pass the context into it, and let's keep it a class call. I haven't defined this class over here yet. Now I'm going to create this tile widget. So I'm just going to create the drawer, the main drawer. Needs a child. The list as we have seen earlier in the documentation. This children. Let's wrap into a container. Add colors to it. The colors are black. Needs a child. Drawer header is a function which needs which you have to put the images. So let's search for images now. I have it here somewhere. Yes. I'm just going to drop everything in this. In this images folder. Awesome. So before doing this, in order to access all of these images, I'll have to change something in pubspec.yaml folder. So press Control KU in order to uncomment. Control S to save. Now I'm going to pass the image folder, image. I'm just going to, let's say, I want this Akatsuki. I'm just going to copy this path and put it over here. Here it goes. Let's add height and width to this. I'm just going to extend this width to the full max because I want the whole picture to be stretched out as maximum as possible. So go ahead and put infinity. So here comes the I'll have to add title name. Context. Let me build this function called build file. I'm going to pass context over here. So first of all, I'm just going to create. Let me just create a folder for let's say Naruto. Naruto.dart. You just import this. Create another stateless widget. Call it Naruto. Let this return a scaffold folder, scaffold class. PP app bar. what I'm basically doing here is creating another page for Naruto, which the title says Naruto Uzumaki, and I'm adding a bunch of colors over here. Background color. Let's say orange. Now coming to the body. I'm just gonna paste this image. And same thing. I just wanna extend it to its fullest. I just add height. Double dot infinity basically just stretches out the image as far as possible. Let's save this. We have error. It looks like we have a problem. Oh.
I think Vishnu, you have placed the on tap function inside the text widget.
Nope.
You have placed the on tap function inside the text widget, like you missed the bracket, I guess.
Okay.
So like you can just copy paste that on tap function and paste it outside the text widget.
Where is the on tap?
Hello. Yeah. Just remove that second last bracket.
Keshav, why don't you finish the dice app in the meantime? I'll just sort this out.
Okay. Yeah. Fine.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Thanks. So. Hello. Yeah. I hope you can see my screen. So as you all remember, we created a text button, and inside the on press button, we are calling a number which changes the number. We're calling a function change number, which basically changes all the numbers. Now there's a part called set state in this function. Set state basically will rebuild all the statements which are under this. I need to comment this out. Yeah. So when the set state function is called, it will notify my material app that hey, all the widgets under your tree which use this variable left dice number and right dice number needs to be updated and rebuilt. So it will basically rebuild this whole build method and produces another two images, like its left dice number and right dice number accordingly. So we'll just check it out. I think it should work. We'll kill the app. We'll rebuild it. Have to wait for this. Yeah, so we have the app running. I missed the bracket. I didn't call the function, I just named the function. Yeah, it should work now. So as you can see, whenever I tap, the widgets change. Like it re-updates and I get a new function. I get a new dice number. Now the problem with this design is, if I extend it over, right, the size of the widgets remain the same. And suppose if I squeeze it, it might break the code. So for that, we have an expanded widget. Expanded widget basically tells the underlying child to expand to the maximum possible space which is available to it. So if I remove this height and width provide from the widgets, I can see that it will break the code and I'll not have enough, like I don't have enough screen to display my widgets. And if I wrap this widget with another widget, which is an expanded widget, what will happen is this dice will take the maximum possible area which can be given to it. Now, sometimes we want one dice to be smaller, like we can want a one widget to be smaller than the other one. Then this expanded has a property of flex. So flex will basically tell it the ratio in which it has to divide. So if I enter 1 here and flex 2, 3, 2, then it will make the right side dice twice the size of the left side. Yeah, you can clearly see that. So I guess that's it from my side. And Vishnu, are problems resolved?
Yes, give me 1 minute.
Oh. Well, there are other types of alignments too which you can try. And if you change this to a column, row to a column, then all the widgets will be aligned in the form of a column. I already showed you that. This one. So you can play along with these widgets and create a a common a common design, an uncommon design. Suppose I have two widgets in a row, right? Now I want my third widget to have a text which is of the form suppose. I can style it. the color to white. Then we'll have another widget here. Now, if I align this widget, now the problem with this one is it's over there, but I want it to be here. So what I can do is I can set the cross-axis alignment of the entire row to center, and the main axis alignment of this column to center. So I think we'll have the widget here. Yeah. As you can see, we can create a nested row and column structure and make a really complex UI even if you want to. We can add another text inside the column, such as hello. Well, yeah, we need to change the color.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it over from you. Thank you.
So we have a structure like this. So this is all, if you use nested columns and row, you can create a complex UI.
Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen? Okay, thank you. So due to time constraint, I won't be able to code the full app, but I'll just explain from where I left off, and hopefully you guys could understand. So after creating the build tile, I'm passing arguments. This is my function, and this is the function build tile. And what this function does is it pops. So in order to access this navigation menu with the help of a drawer, these are called list tiles. The each team 7, Lord 4, Narul 4, Sasuke and everything, they're called list tiles. So what I have done is I've passed arguments into these navigator.push. So what it does is once I click this team 7, the list tile drops, in other words pops, and this material page root throws this context location to this class over. So if we scroll down to this class, this Minotaur dot, what this does is it's just a basic page which has an app bar which says Minotaur family with color yellow and this image. So if I click Minotaur, first it drops and then the page gets pushed. Minotaur family, it gets dropped and then this page gets pushed onto the file. So like that, you can create as many as classes and list tiles as you want. All you have to do is copy paste this code and just change this asset location, and make sure before adding an asset image, make sure you always change the pubspec YAML file and make sure it's always added into this asset page. Otherwise, Flutter will not be able to recognize this and will throw an error. So where is main? And so this completes the build function. Now what I've done is in a scaffold app, there always exists something called drawer class. So I just uh, use the my drawer class which I've created using a stateless widget, and which consists of the list build tile function. So that's it about this app. And if you run this, it looks somewhat like this. Let me just refresh it. These are the assets in the folder. And that's it for this session. And with this, we'll be concluding this session. So, hope all of you have learned something, at least an introductory thing, which you could, in the future, you could, with this basic knowledge, you could download or you can purchase Flutter, Angela, you Course Academy. Yeah. Keshav, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I would like to say thank you all for attending the session.
Thank
And
you.
on the
Thank you so
last
much
note,
on
the
Sunday.
last note, yeah, and on the
Sunday
last,
afternoon. Thank you so much for attending
yeah,
this 2-hour session, and sorry for the inconvenience and the delay.
and on the last note, we have this attendance form in the Teams chat, and I hope you all fill it before you leave. Thank you.